Do I start again about Key West?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, no problem. You
Go
ready?
ahead.
Okay. So now I'm in Key West. I have Rita and 5-month-old Kenny.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you an interesting thing that happened to me. I couldn't warm up to Kenny. I was just tired. I was exhausted. I went into Vietnam weighing 190 pounds the last time. I came back weighing 160.
Oh.
I was all thin and flaccid. I was just tired. I'd gotten amoebic dysentery right before I left. I'd been shot again in March, and that really debilitated me. Tell you something about being shot. You start getting nauseous and dizzy from loss of blood.
Oh.
That's when you know you're going.
Oh.
I patched myself up. I was the corpsman. I was able to start a plasma on myself.
Oh.
Yeah, stuck it in my arm. When they found me, I was passed out. Plasma in my arm. I don't remember what happened. They told me that's how they find me, so I'm assuming I was the only guy there that could do it. So
Right.
that I had enough presence of mind to realize that I was fading out.
Thank God, or
Yeah.
you wouldn't be here.
Yeah. Anyway, and I give myself a morphine syrup not to feel pain, and hoping for the best,
Right.
as I faded out. Anyway, so I'm back. I'm looking forward to going to sniper school. I'm going to extend for another 4 years, so I get sniper school. All I'm being guaranteed is sniper school. No other place, no duty stations, no nothing. I'm going to go back to California to go to sniper school. So I get called into personnel, and they say, look, you got your E5
Mm-hmm.
in around August 20th. So that's September 20th, October 20th, November 20th, December, January, February. You get out February 21st, you only have 6 months left. You have to have 9 months left in order for a battlefield commission to be valid.
Oh.
I go, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So you go, well, you got to sign right now. Otherwise, your E5, we're going to take it away from you.
Oh.
You're back to E4, which is the equivalent of a corporal instead of a sergeant. In the 3 months we've been paying you, E5, we're going to take out of your corporal's pay for the next 3 months till you leave.
A bunch of bullshit.
That's what I said. And I said, fuck sniper school. I don't want any more of this Mickey Mouse outfit.
Right.
War is one thing. Be back in civilization. Nobody likes the military in civilization.
Well, not especially during that time.
Well, no, not only that. No, it wasn't because of that. It's because the Mickey Mouse bullshit.
Mm.
I mean, I got a chest full of medals, and I'm getting chewed out because my shoes aren't shined right.
Right. Like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Whoops, sorry.
No, and that's just it. And I remember one incident that happened while I was back in the rear, still in Vietnam, waiting for my paperwork and going from getting things stamped so I could get on a chopper, go to Da Nang, and from Da Nang to LAX. It was just, I'm there, and this doctor was checking in, and he says, "Hey, Ken, carry the doctor's bags to quarters." I looked at him. I go, "No." The guy goes, "I'm ordering you to do that. I'm coming off the field. I've got pictures of me where you can't see the shine on my shoes. There's no black left on my boots.
Right.
My clothes are almost white from being bleached with sweat and sun. And I all of a sudden, I've been in combat continuously, and I was in a lot of combat.
Right.
I was in a lot of gunfights, and all of a sudden I got to carry some guy's bags."
No.
And that's what I said. And it was like, I was going to go to nose with the guy. The doctor intervened. He goes, "It's all right, son." And he goes, I'll carry my own bags. And he said, and he looked at the chief. Now the doctor's an officer, obviously.
Right.
And he says, "I'll carry my own bags." And I looked at the doctor. I go, "In that case, I will help you. So I helped him and we chatted, and he started asking me questions about field work, that I had done, the medical experiences I had as a combat corpsman,
Right.
and providing medical services for villagers, which involved everything from delivering babies to taking care of people with diphtheria, cobra bites.
Cobra bites. Yeah, I didn't even think
Run
of that.
over by a buffalo.
Oh, jeez.
Whatever. Yeah, I actually had those. Each one of those. So I have a photograph of myself suturing a lady's leg, without a shirt and just like she's on the ground, her legs sticking out. Just shoot it up with, xylocaine, topical anesthetic, and then just suture it up. I did that stuff almost every day.
Right.
That was my daytime job. Nighttime job was going out and put grease on my face and go look for the enemy.
Right.
But anyway, so that's what I mean by Mickey Mouse stuff. So back in Key West, I said, "Fuck this." I realized my paperwork coming out of Vietnam. I got a great recommendation. Hospital Corpsman de Valle, second class, has performed wonderfully. He's done this, he's done that. And then there was an addition that said, and he speaks Spanish well. He speaks English well. He speaks good, and he speaks good English.
Well, that's funny.
Yeah, I know. So anyway, now I'm back. So I decided to go to Africa. The job in Africa, I was in Angola. It paid $36,000 a year. And if you stayed the whole year, you got a $10,000 bonus.
Nice.
So I decided to go to Africa. I sent Rita home to the farm. And,
Here in Wisconsin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I went to Africa. And I fought in Angola for a year. I fought for the Portuguese as a mercenary. Ostensibly, when I first got there, my job was going to be setting up medcaps like I had done in Vietnam. Mm-hmm. And medcap, you go from village to village and provide medical services for the local villagers. And it's part of a Hearts and Minds. It's called part of the Hearts and Minds program. Hearts and Minds is when you try to help them, a village put in a well, when you help them with an irrigation system, when you help them build a schoolhouse,
Nice.
when you provide medical services. That's what I did. So Africa was really brutal. It was worse than Vietnam. From Africa, I was there a whole year, and then I didn't want to come back to the United States because of some things that I had done in Africa, and I thought there might be an arrest warrant for me in the States. So I went directly from Africa to Marseille, France, to Paris, and a flight to Mexico City. And I met my best friend Kenny Stevens in Africa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was a former Green Beret.
Mm-hmm.
He was also fighting for the Portuguese. He happened to be a pilot, and we borrowed an airplane from the Portuguese government and sold it in Marseille, France, to some drug smugglers. And then, we did a bunch of other shit. But we both went back with plenty of money for college. And then Rita joined me again. And I went to college at the University of the Americas in Mexico. The first year and a half, or maybe even the 2 years, it was in Mexico City. The good part about the University of the Americas is that it was accredited in the United States.
Oh,
So I was getting a degree in Mexico that was valid in the U.S.
right. It had the reciprocity.
Not even reciprocity. It was
It just
actually
was-
a recognized college,
Oh,
university.
that's cool. Well,
Yeah.
it was of the Americas.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, it was part of the Southwestern
Oh.
Conference of Colleges or
Okay.
something like that. I checked into that. By that point, because I had Rita and Kenny,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel I should be going to Japan, to Sophia University. And besides, I had grown I had grown out of wanting to be a samurai. Okay?
Are you sure? You still secretly, you kind of are a samurai.
Well, when the bullets start flying, you realize that sword's not that good of a thing.
Okay.
You know? And so, I began as an economics major. And I was thinking of getting into banking. I said, if I get a degree in economics, I can come back to the States, get into banking, which is an open field if you get your foot in the door of the right bank, you know, especially with a degree in economics. But I was there for, I don't know, maybe about a year studying econ when the whole economics department was hired by DuPont.
Oh.
Yeah. The dean of the economics department just left. They took the whole department with them.
Jesus.
Yeah, yeah. It just, I remember going there on a Monday morning and there was still pencil in those old pencil sharpeners.
Yeah.
I remember thinking it was so ironic, you know. I mean, we were joking about it. So shit, they didn't even bother taking the pencils. Oh, we're going. Goodbye.
Okay.
There was a desk like that, a secretarial desk we saw. The guy took anybody of note in that department with him.
Huh.
So now I'm stuck without a major, and we all get promised that, you know, we're going to, you know, they're going to rebuild the economics department, but I don't have time to wait.
No.
So at some point, the university moved to Cholula, Puebla.
Oh.
And they got a land grant from some foundation. And they moved to Cholula, Puebla, and I had the decision to make whether I wanted to finish my college with the University of the Americas. That meant I would have to go with them to Cholula, Puebla. So I went to Cholula. I got a jump start on it. I went a couple of months before the university actually made the official move, and I scouted out an hacienda. I rented an hacienda for $80 a month.
Wow.
I had a maid for $8 a week.
Wow.
It's just a gorgeous old hacienda, and of course my whole crew, all the guys. There were a lot of vets down there, and the vets hung out together. And because I was the karate teacher and the combat guy, a lot of those vets were kind of like, you know, they looked at me as a sensei, and not only that kind, but because of my combat experience, they kind of followed me.
Right.
And at that time, I had begun doing some side work for the American Embassy, and they loved the fact that they had a guy with my combat experience and a crew of guys he could pull.
Right.
You know, for
Whatever.
special assignments
Right.
that they didn't want known, you know. And so, and it all started because well, I'll tell you that a little bit later. Anyway, I went to the University of Americas, and I finally said, well, how do I get out of here with a degree as fast as possible?
Right.
So I switched to English literature major. And the good part about that is I think that in the year and a half maybe that I was an English lit major,
Yeah.
except for the Russian books, Russian lit books, I think I had read almost everything I had before I even went to college.
Right.
You know, all the great American novels, all the great American writers, all the Brits, poetry, the same thing. I've been a lover of Shakespeare ever since I learned how to read Shakespeare
Right.
at about 14, 15. And there used to be great books because you would have Shakespearean English, and then you would have little side notes as to the meaning.
Right.
Yeah, so that's how I kind of learned how, in those Shakespearean plays, you have to read them 2 or 3 times
Oh God. Yeah.
before you really get the gist of them and the beauty of them. It's just, I love Shakespeare. To this day, I love Shakespeare. I have a book of his quotes. I'm pretty sure I've read every Shakespearean play. you know, and I've tried, and at some point I would read them out loud to get the gist and the intonation of the language. I also like Cervantes. I read Don Quixote, you know, and that I had never read before. I remember being surprised. I had never read it before. And the Russians, you know, Tolstoy. Who the heck's the other one? Tolstoy.
I just think of Tolstoy.
Yeah. Well, what's his name? But I always thought I never liked Russian literature. I always thought it was too ponderous, you know. When Anna Karenina threw herself in front of the train, I was so happy because the book ended. I did well in my first, but my last 2 years I made dean's lists every time, and I realized that school is about you kind of figure out how to do it, and then you can sail through it. And so I graduated from law school. I'm not from law school at the time, from the University of the Americas. Enrique and my grandfather kind of wanted me to stay in Mexico. But I like the United States too much. They offered me to run the bar, and that was a very profitable venture.
Right.
And Enrique and Jose, my grandfather, were always into real estate deals. They'd sell this, they'd buy that, they'd buy that, they'd sell this. They're always moving money around. There came a point later on when Enrique made me over $100,000 money I sent him to invest, and he played the market. I sent him about 20. I ended up with about 100.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was just brilliant at it. I don't know how he went broke later. You know, it befuddles me. I can't figure it out. He made me so much money. He liked playing with my money.
Right.
And he played with it very well.
That's good, though.
You know, yeah. So after I got out of undergraduate school, came back. While I was in the University of the Americas, I was getting the GI Bill. And in order for you to get your check, your monthly check, which was about $450 a month.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it was pretty good back then. We all had to go to the embassy one day a month, typically on a Friday evening. And all the vets would go, you know, about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And we'd get our checks and we'd all go drinking together. So one day I'm at the American Embassy getting my check. And I run into this guy I knew in Vietnam.
Whoa.
As a matter of fact, I have a picture of him, you know, from Vietnam. And he was one of the guys who ran what we called a guidang truck. About once every 15 days, a truck full of goodies would drive up to our compound.
He was the one driving it?
No, he was the guy selling this shit.
Oh.
We would buy stuff with MPCs, military peace money, or I forgot what it was called. You didn't get dollars.
It was
you got
funny
MPCs.
money.
Yeah. You know, you could buy a case of Coke.
Right.
You could buy steaks, because we had dry ice. We didn't have it, but, you know, we had coolers with steaks, Twinkies, that sort of stuff. You know, eggs. So even though I was in a compound, and we went out every night from that compound. And every time anybody went out from that compound, I had to be on it because I was the corpsman.
Because you were the corpsman, yeah.
There were 4 teams of 4 guys. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So everybody went out 2 nights and rested 6. I was the 5th man on each team. I went out every night.
When the hell did you rest? You didn't?
I never did.
You didn't?
Yeah, but I didn't have to stand watch. I didn't have to do kitchen duty. I didn't have to do a lot of mundane shit. But I just went out every night. You know, I had to suit up every night. And as I told you before, it was always stressful. I was always afraid.
Yeah.
You know, when it started, and you go out at dusk, So you can settle in when there's a little bit of light. You can settle in your ambush. You can figure out where the hooch, or the local villager you're going to go search for firearms or, war material for the enemy is, you by the time it's dark, you're already out there. But you settle in at dusk, so you have enough light to see what you're doing. And then in the dark, you reach the end of whatever you're doing, and then you can execute your mission, whether it's an ambush, a raid, or just a patrol, to see who's out after 9 p.m. Because we had a curfew.
Curfew.
Yeah. And, sometimes you hear buffalo walking in the night, and you don't know if somebody's hiding between the buffalo. You don't know this. It's
That's scary.
yeah. Well, yeah, especially when you get in gunfights all the time. I'm so surprised that I lived through most of them. But once in a gunfight, you're thinking about the fight, and I got to the point where I could really think while I was fighting. I was in so many of them that I just became habituated.
Gotcha.
I was thinking not so much about, I was never afraid during the fight. I was always afraid before. Always. I don't think I remember one day when but it was always, on a scale from 1 to 10, one day I could, fuck it, the other days I'd be trembling before we go out.
Right.
But once I stepped outside that wire, I was all business. I was focused. And when you're in a gunfight, you have to focus on taking care of business to the absence of your own well-being. And what I mean by that is you're not reckless, but you're conscious of what you're doing. You know there's a chance you could get hurt or killed, but the mission and the whacking the other guys is still more important. When I talk about gunfights, I don't mean every gunfight was a major event. Sometimes we take 1 or 2 rounds, we didn't even know where they were coming from, and but that was logged in as a. And sometimes, I've been in 2-day gunfights.
Oh.
Yeah, always right. So, in the compound I was in, they attempted to overrun us during the last 13 months in that compound. They attempted to overrun us 3 times. So the time that I ended up in the hospital, we had him inside the wire. I was in hand to hand. That's how I ended up in the hospital. The guy that ran out in front of me got blown up. Kid by name of Mark White. I woke up, I had pieces of Mark all over me.
Oh.
Yeah, and they're trying to drag me away. And I got up. I don't remember this, but this is what I was told happened. I started struggling. I picked up an entrenching tool and hit a guy with it. And then the guy shot me, and somebody shot him. The mayhem of just having people inside the wire. But somehow, all of us but Mark survived that.
Wow.
Yeah, everybody was wounded. Everybody was hurt. But that's what I'm talking about. Now that's a real fight. But you also have, it's kind of a derogatory term. But we take boom, boom. Who the fuck is shooting at us? You hear who's behind you. We say, oh, it's just Luke the Gook.
Luke the Gook.
Which is a bad term.
Right.
But that's,
Right. That's what you did.
Yeah. It's some old farmer that saw us and said, oh, I'm going to get those. I'm going to go in my hut, get my old Mauser, take 2 shots, go hide my Mauser, and start plowing the field again. Look, that sort of thing. So we had slang for everything. So anyway, now I'm back in Mexico. I finished school. Well, during that time, we used to go to pick up our checks at the embassy. I meet Corporal George. He invites me to the Marine Barracks party. Every Friday night at the Marine Barracks, the guys get together, and they're drinking. And who hangs out with them? The CIA, the Federal Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs, the FBI. There there was no Federal Bureau of Narcotics back then. Federal Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs, it was called. Okay?
Okay.
And so all those guys, and this is my friend from Nam. Oh, you were in Nam, blah, blah, blah. So he introduces me after a couple of times I went to a guy named Al. Al asked me, do you want to do some work for us? Al is a middle-aged guy. He's wearing a three-piece suit, a bow tie, wingtip shoes, and he smokes a pipe. Al.
Al.
Who are you with, Al? I'm with Al. Since you're interested? Yeah. He said, I got to tell this story. This is really silly. So he says, all right, I want you to come work for us. I go, all right, how do we do this? He goes, this Friday you're going to be on such and such a corner. Bring me a picture of yourself. A front and a side, like passport photos. So I bring him passport photos. And he says, all right, this Friday you're going to meet a guy who looks like this at this corner, which is about a block and a half away from the embassy.
Okay.
Right? There used to be a statue called Diana back then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The goddess Diana?
Yeah, the goddess
Okay.
Diana with her bow. So I show up, and there's this guy I've met at these parties, at these Marine Corps barracks parties.
Oh.
The guys asked me questions about Vietnam. The guy was kind of an asshole, one of those red-faced dudes with a flat top. You know, we gotta kill all the communists in the world.
Yeah, that guy.
He was kind of obnoxious, right?
Okay.
You could tell he was red from drinking too much,
Right.
too. And they're chubby, you know, always acting tough. I didn't really like the guy that much. And I had talked to him, but you know, because when Corporal George actually introduced, this guy was really in it.
Right.
You know, and they're all asking me questions about this and that. And so Al, after a while, finds out that I had been in the Phoenix program.
Oh.
He says, why'd you walk away from Phoenix? I told him, I said, I didn't want anything to do with it.
Right.
It was just too crazy for me.
Right.
And I gave him the same answer I had given those other guys. I said, you know, I watched the Nuremberg trials on PBS.
Right.
I don't want any part of that. So anyway, Al was a very likable guy. Pipes Harvard type, strictly Harvard type. And even kind of a Bostonian accent, you know, elegant guy. So he tells me, bring me those. So now the guy who's there to meet me is that same red-faced asshole.
Oh, Jesus.
And I go, hey, I forgot what his name was. I go, how are you? He looks at me. I shit you not. Reaches inside his pocket, looks at the pictures I had given Al. Looks at me, looks at the pictures. Okay, what's up, Ken? That's what I'm going about. I've seen this guy half a dozen times. He knows what my name is.
Right.
He's got to look at a picture, to look at me, look at a picture, look at me, to even say, yeah, you're the guy I'm supposed to meet here. So then he says to me, he goes, writes it down, says, you have to be at this room at the Hotel Del Prado, downtown. So I go, all right. Yeah. I go get my car. And as I was going to get my car, I stopped. I said, hey, you want to ride downtown? He said, no, we can't go together. We can't be seen together.
Okay.
So, all right, I'll see you there. So he tells me to be there in about an hour. So I'm driving around, wasting time, go downtown. The Hotel Del Prado had underground parking. So I check in, I go to the room, I knock on the door, and he answers the door. Right?
Who, the same guy?
Yeah, the same guy.
What the fuck?
Yeah, what the fuck? It's the same guy. And he says, sit down, we're going to have an interview. So we're sitting at a desk in the hotel room, which is up abuts a wall. And on here is a gigantic electrical outlet, which is obviously a microphone.
Huh.
You know,
Okay.
I mean, really obvious. And he starts asking me questions. Are you a United States citizen? Like this. Have you ever been a member of the Communist Party? Have you ever had? And I'm looking at this guy. I go, and you know, I'm asking all these questions. Then he starts talking to me about people in my university. Now, I was a karate instructor, right?
Yeah.
And I was doing that on my own.
Right.
It wasn't, but I had a lot of students. And among the students that I had were black Muslims
Okay.
who were studying at the university. And they were the grandchildren of Elijah Muhammad, the leader of the black Muslims in Chicago.
Oh.
You know? So, do you know so-and-so? Yeah. Well, does he have any communist tendencies?
I don't know.
I don't know. Does he have any? I go, at a certain point, I said, wait a fucking minute.
Yeah.
I said, what? That's exactly what I said. I said, look, you guys came after me. I'm not trying to, you know, you want to find out about my fellow students?
Right.
I said, what's this about?
Yeah.
Well, we want to know if you hang out with communists. I go, I hang out with whoever the fuck I want to hang out with. That's exactly what I said.
Good for you.
You know, no, I wasn't interested.
Right.
I was curious about the process. I couldn't believe it was so silly, you know, so inane. You know, the guy's looking at my picture, looking at me, looking at me, and then
And then he's the guy at the hotel.
yeah, he's also the guy at the hotel. Oh, he does the same thing at the hotel
Oh, he did. Jesus Christ! What the?
before he lets me in the room. Then he tells me to sit down at what's obviously a microphone
Right.
on the wall right here, and so the guy's interviewing me, and I thought I blew it. I thought, you know, this, because I said, look, you know, do you want shit done, or do you want me to spy on my fellow students?
Right.
You know, because I'm not about that.
Right.
I said, you know, I don't give a shit what the politics are.
Right.
Well, you know, America has got to protect it. I go, listen, man, that's you. That's, you know, I've been there. I've done that.
Right.
I said, have you been to Nam? No. He said, they wouldn't send me. He was sorry he hadn't made it to Vietnam.
Really?
Yeah, and he's still hoping to go.
Jesus.
Well, this is what? This is now 1969, 1970. Remember, the war went on until 75 in one way or another. So, I almost laughed out loud
Yeah.
at this guy. Because he was, if you're sent to central casting for a red-faced asshole in a bow tie, you know, with a flat top, you know, right-wing, ultra-right-wing, you know, blathering anti-communist fool, they would send you this guy from central casting.
Jesus
He,
Christ.
he could have been a
Right.
cartoon in a movie. So the guy, I leave, and I go down to the basement. I pick up my car. I come up out of the parking lot. And the guy's walking. I go, hey, man, did you? No. I go, you want to ride back? Looks around. Okay, I guess it's okay. And I said, oh, this guy's so fucking stupid.
Oh my
You know. So I go right back to the embassy. I don't hear shit for a month. The next time I'm at the Marine Corps party, the next time we went to pick up our checks, you know, I go and Al's waiting for me, you know, at the counter where we picked up our checks. Said, hey, Ken, yeah, let's talk. So I went and talked, and he offered me a job. And my first job was running a listening post on the Russian embassy. You know, changing reel-to-reel tapes from the roof. My house abutted the Russian embassy.
Oh God.
My house. I lived in Carlos Besetina, there in Avenida Revolucion. So their back wall was part of the wall of my house, of my building
Jesus.
that I lived in. So we like to put, you know, I don't know if they got me because of the proximity, you know, the same square block, okay? And if you have a square block, this is the American Embassy, this is my building. This is the Russian Embassy,
Embassy,
this
that's
is
your
my
building.
And they put some guys across the way too to film everybody that went in and out. They told me that. So that led to one thing and led to another. And then the next thing they had me do was Senator Tom Dodd, nephew or relative, some kind of relative, got picked up coming across the Guatemalan border with diving equipment, scuba diving equipment. And some idiot border area local cops, Mexican cops, had picked him up and said he was a communist infiltrator because they had never seen the kind of diving equipment he had. And they were playing hide the weenie with him. They were basically holding him captive for ransom. And so, can you do anything about this? I go, yeah, let me try. You know, I need $10,000 up front.
Right.
So I went, they kept this guy in a cage about the size of a cabinet. Yeah. They caught him with weed too.
Oh, geez.
So they used that as a pretext.
Oh, geez.
Then they found out he was somebody important. I'll tell you this. I remember I found where he was.
Yeah.
And I went to visit the chief of police there. The chief of police kids came in. They didn't speak English. They didn't speak Spanish.
Oh.
They spoke Nahuatl,
What's
an
that?
Indian dialect.
Oh.
They didn't even speak Spanish. That's how countrified they were.
Wow.
I remember being in the chief of police station, in the station with the chief of police, you know, about 3 or 4 guys around him, like, you know, what are they going to do?
Right.
You know, with the gringo with the money. Because I bought the kid. I bought him. You know, I bought him for, I think, about $2,000. You know, sell them to me, and, you know, I stuck the other $8,000 in my pocket. So, and plus I got paid for the job. But they had sent all kinds of people down there, investigative teams, and I just went down there and bribed the guy. You know, offered him money for it. And that was the beginning of my clandestine work that I did on a contract basis. And that led, once I came back to the United States, I couldn't find a job.
Oh, shit.
Well, you know, I had a degree in English literature, but like I told you earlier, they had closed the poetry factory. So, I taught school part-time for a little bit.
You taught history, right?
No, I taught everything.
Oh.
It was a bilingual program
Okay.
where they had Mexican high school kids. I taught geography, I taught history, I taught English. There were 4 teachers and about 50 kids.
Oh.
So everybody taught everything.
Wow.
I didn't teach math.
Oh.
Thank God. So, and I kept touch with a bunch of those kids. That was at St. Vitus School on 18th Street in Chicago. I had a blast. You know, I worked there for about 6 months. Then, you know, then I just started calling people up in the government. They go, you got some? They go, yeah, we got some. So I began doing some clandestine work. I was never in the CIA. I was never in the FBI. I was never in, who's the Drug Enforcement Administration?
DEA.
DEA. I was never any of those. I was talked always to a guy named Al or a guy named Bob or a guy named Sam. They all looked alike, you know.
Right.
But I was working in the federal building,
Right.
you know. I was working in the federal building. I had a security clearance. And I was making a good living,
Yeah.
you know. And at a certain point, during the course of that work, I came home on a stretcher or a wheelchair 4 times. That's, you know, that's the kind of work it was.
Yeah.
I was embedded into the U.S. Department of Labor as a manpower planning specialist, GS-13. I started off with GS-12 level 4, and they gave, you know, I pulled off a couple of nice jobs, and they gave me a GS-13. During that time, I was also teaching karate again. I was involved in community organizations. I got to tell this about my grandmother, Ophelia.
Okay.
As nutty as she was in every Hispanic community organization that existed. Everywhere. You
That's
know?
where Auntie Vaughn gets it from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was this. Her thing was to get a picture with some high political muckety muck. she's got pictures with the governor, with Mayor Daley, and she'd get she'd get appointed to the board of Hispanic tire watchers,
Oh, geez.
or I'm on the board of, and they have community meetings, and so and so's trying to take my place. So and so stole
Oh,
money.
God.
So and so did this. So and so
She could
did
dress
that.
to the nines every day.
Yeah, yeah,
Jeez.
yeah. She'd doll up. Poor as a church mouse.
Right.
But she belonged to all these, and she had this air of aristocracy that she
Right.
pulled off
Right.
beautifully.
Right.
So to some degree, I got involved in all these things because of her. Kenny, please, these people need to talk to a young man like you. All right, Grandma, I'll go see him. And before I know it, I was working on bilingual education. And before you know it, I was working on housing.